And everything, like I told you before, everything hits the head. All these fish want to hit the head of the fly. That's why hooks don't matter. That's why long shanks are bad. Because it all is coming from the head of the fly. They're not going to hit it from here. If they do, it's a little fish every single time. You're not going to hook a big fish on the back hook. You're always going to kill it from the front. So, you know, and an average fish down here is, you know, a brown. You know, like there's times when we catch, you know, 15 browns in one day streamer fishing and 6 or 7 or 18 inches. And there's people that kill for fish like that. But you know, like that fish to us, we don't even want it on the boat, man. It's like, because there's so many in this river. There's just an abundance of browns. So we've got a big river system that supports streamers. Not a lot of people are doing it yet. You know, it's getting real popular now. That's why everybody's in this room, because they know there's something going on with that. And it's just evolving. And we're right on the nick of it, you know. I mean, we're only 3 years into doing it on this river.
So you're using a special streamer line. It's not just a regular sink pit.
No.
Okay,
but you want to have it all. Like, that's the thing. You want to have it all. So when you get into streamer fishing, it's just like anything else. You've got to get all the equipment. You're going to need a 7-weight. You're going to need an 8-weight. You're going to need a 9-weight. You're going to need 275 all the way to 550. So you're going to need 3 lines. You're going to need a 275 for 3 to 4 feet of water. You're going to need 350 for 5 to 6 feet of water. And if you're going to get into this massive 20, 15 feet of water, you need a 550. And you're going to need that 550 on a 10-weight. So now we're talking ocean fishing on the White River. You know what I mean? But you've got to have those systems in order to support what you're trying to throw. So if I'm going to throw a 550 grain, and I'm going to throw that 8 units on this river system, I'm going to go with a 10-weight, and I'm going to throw nothing but big honking flies.
On a 3-foot leader.
On a 36 inches total. Yep. The reason why is if you have too long of a leader, you're going to get too much of a bow. So you're going to have your line sinking here, and this isn't keeping up with it. So then this is sinking fast, and this is bowing, and that's not good. So you want that. You want it to all be one level. Now, who said something about airflow? You're throwing airflows. Have you thrown airflow ridge lines?
Not in the sinking line.
Well, here's the deal. I'm building my own systems, and I was doing it last time I had this class, last year. I'm taking ridge lines, and this is what I've learned from, who knows Mikey Weir and Brent Dawson? Who knows these Warpath guys, these Trout Bum Diaries? Who's seen Trout Bum Diaries? Okay, these guys are behind it. They'll be here this year to film. They went to Mongolia. You guys know that? Went over there and taming fish, caught these 55-inch taming. It took them 3 times, though, to dial in 55-inch taming. Before, they were only catching little bitty taming. It's kind of like us here. We're catching 23, 24-inch browns, but we're in them 30s. It's just like those 55-inch taming. That's why I'm really picking their brain. Because I said, look, here's the problem with this river and with IPS, which means inches per second, okay? They're testing those inches per second with dead water, not current, okay? So when you put current, and we have a drip boat, we're floating, and you put current with that, your fly's not sinking the same, okay? So let's say it says it's sinking at 9 inches per second, okay? And you put current with that. I bet you it's only sinking 3 inches per second because that current is keeping that fly from sinking. Because of all that S curve formation that's in the water. It's doing that. It's allowing that thing not to sink. So that's why, you know, we're still trying to figure out how to get down deeper. And that's the thing that I'm still trying to learn. And there's nobody out here that really knows how to do that yet. And I think it's because we haven't dialed it in. So back to your ridgeline deal. These ridge lines, and I talked to Mikey on the phone. I said, Mikey, when y'all went to Mongolia and you started catching those 55-inch taimen, how were you doing it this time? He said, well, we started building our own systems. So what they're doing is they're building these ridge lines, and they're called intermediate ridge lines, okay? And they're putting these T8 to T13 shooting heads from Rio. You can buy them packaged. They come packaged up in Rio, and they're 30-foot heads. And you can build it. You can braid that. You know, like a braid cord that you old school used to do. You're going to have to braid that to your line because there is no loop. So you get that little braided cord deal, and you would braid each side of it, and you'd sloop or glue it.
What would you braid that to?
To your line.
Yeah,
Let's say the intermediate. Let's say intermediate. Intermediate's a level line. It sinks, okay, and it sinks at a level, okay. And when you put that shooting head that you're going to attach to it, it's all level. And that's the thing is you want level. You want it to all sink together. And that intermediate line, it sinks a little faster than what they're making these running lines on that are built-in shooting heads. So this has a little bit more of an edge of slicing through the water. Okay.
You're saying intermediate, but what I'm hearing, you're saying uniform sink density.
Right. Uniform.
Not just intermediate like we use in the ocean, the clear stuff. You're talking about it sinks, that's uniform sink density.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying, right?
Yep.
Intermediate just sinks real slow.
Right. But this stuff is designed to all sink at the same rate. It doesn't belly up.
When you self-build it. See, when you're like now, we're relying on these fly line companies to make our lines for us. So we're at the hands of their mercy on what they want us to use, etc. Well, that's kind of like Mikey and Brent. Well, they were doing that. They were buying these lines and they were doing all this stuff. That all these guys that are smart and they're in the labs and doing all this test work and coming out with all this stuff, they relied on that equipment. But that equipment didn't do it for them. See, and that's what I'm saying here is that Kelly can sit here and be the brains behind all this, and he's really smart. He knows what he's doing. But there's other people out here that are like me and a couple other guys that are doing our own thing too. And it boils down to getting down quick enough to get in front of that 30-inch fish versus that 22. And that's why you got to make your own stuff. You know, you got to start building your own systems, and that's why I was telling you the system you want to build that's got an edge over all these other companies that are self-made fly lines is that you're getting this down a little faster than they are. Okay, so like there's a streamer express line, there's a wet tip express line, and I'll tell you the two differences because that's really what you guys are going to buy. There's a real outbound line you can buy that's real popular. The one he was talking about is real popular. And then a lot of people, though, are just SA guys, okay? So they're going to buy SA lines. So the Wet Tip Express has a different running line than a Streamer Express. The Streamer Express has more of a, I want to say like I think he said 36-pound hard mason running line. And what's bad about that is in the cold, like if it's below freezing, it's going to coil. It's like weed eater line. You're going to have all that running line down here in the boat. When you go to make your next cast, that's all coiled up, and you're going to be undoing your coils all day and not fishing. So it's bad news. So when you want to use that kind of line, that Streamer Express line, use that Streamer Express line above freezing. That wet tip, it has more of an uncoiled running line, more of a floating type line, and so when it's down there, it's not coiling in cold weather. So those two lines are good. I mean, I throw a 450 mainly on this river. And you know what's funny is I can get away with a 450 grain on an 8 or a 9 weight, and I can run that from 2 feet of water all the way to probably 5 feet of water. But here's the thing, if you're going to run that 450, you got to start thinking about things like deer hair that could keep that line up from getting caught on the bottom, okay? And you got to run your flies faster. So let's say you go from a 5-foot section and you're going into a 2-foot section, and you don't want to change your spool and you don't want to re-rig and get your 7 weight out, there's not enough time. Still do what you're doing, but if you have a fly that has no deer hair, you know, this is just going to keep sinking with that 450 and you're going to hang bottom and lose your flies. Go to a deer hair and this will stay up a little higher and it'll allow you to strip across that 2 feet of water without hanging on that 450. So there's ways to go about it, you know, but 450 to me is really your ideal line for fishing around here. Now, you know, when you get into that real massive water, you know, there's a whole different setup, you know. And I didn't bring my flies, but I'll tell you this too. There's a website, if you guys want to write this down, this is where I'm learning all my tricks of my trades. It's called Streamside Flies. And it's a Michigan site, and it's Kelly Newman's. And Kelly Newman is, he's got a lot of good things going on because he does a lot of bay fishing out in Lake Michigan, so he's catching those big lake tributary browns. And he's got all the flies you need, guys. And he's got kits, and he's got, you can just say, hey Kelly, I'm on the White River. He comes here every year and fishes it. Tell him you need a White River kit. They'll build you one. But he's got every fly you need. And you know, another thing that we're getting into now too, like I said, those Gamakatsu hooks, but you also want to get into big bucktail flies. I'm talking huge bucktail. I'm not talking like Clouser minnows. I'm talking, you know, you're building a fly about this same size, but bucktail is 2 hooks, you know, and the bucktail's just massive on the fly. And articulated, always. If you go to that Streamside Flies site, you will see all those flies. There's a streamer page. It's easy to find. Just go to streamers, and he'll have a bunch of them. And your popular flies you want for around here is like a Conrad sculpin. Have you heard of that fly? That's a big deer hair head. It moves a lot of water. It pushes a bunch of water. It's got another thing too. If your tires, you know, we're all about marabou now, you know, but you know, back in the day, it was all about slapping on your tails. Did y'all know that?
About what?
Slapping. It was about hacking it being your tails. And the reason why is because you had more of this. This you have this flutter look like this. So when you're messing with like leech patterns or big streamers and you want a lot of action, get into slapping again.